Greetings and welcome to Bridging the Gap. I'm Ian Hansen, and with intuitive medium and spiritual advisor Brenda Burgett. Brenda, on this edition of the program, we are going to talk about threads. One of my favorite subjects. Actually, we're going to talk about one thread, and we've kind of let me go wild here recently because this is another one of my, I don't want to say theories, but I think it's something that is a part of our world. It's something I've often pondered, and I think we're seeing the thread sort of twinged or twanged a little bit more than we used to. I'll explain what I'm talking about, and then you can jump in and give us your intuitive perceptions of what exactly might be going on as far as my line of thought is concerned. Is that going to work for us today?
I think that's great. I think we're going to hear some things we need to hear.
Okay, I hope so very much. And, you know, my quick bunny costume did not come together for the recently expired Halloween time, so maybe this will make up for it in some strange way. By the way, this is our bust edition of Bridging the Gap because our last one was our 21st, our Blackjack episode, so this would be 22. So, again, to appease Shuffy, who our technical guy behind the camera, we have to call this our bust edition of the show. Don't worry, there won't be any real busts that we know of, at least in this. We might have a...
Don't be looking at me.
I keep waiting for the stripper spirits to show up and make themselves known, but I guess they reside in a different place after our world here, and we will know about them later. So, okay. Brenda, you ready for a question?
I am. We
did not take a question on the last edition of Bridging the Gap, and I also think I failed to mention to you, although you can always get information on the bottom of our screening poo there, but again, you can get questions to Brenda Burgett that she will address from her intuitive perspective if you'd like to on the program here. Ship us an email. You can do that through our website, bridgingthegapwithbrenda.com, bridgingthegapontv.com. Same website? No? bridgingthegaptv.com. That's it. Okay, I'm corrected again. It's been a long week. What can I say? bridgingthegaptv.com, bridgingthegapwithbrenda.com. The Bridging the Gap on TV is our YouTube stuff, by the way. Right? Technical Director Shuffy? He nods in approval. Yes, okay, I've got it right. And there aren't even cards for me to read. I do all this off the top of my head, and usually it's for no more than a slice of really stale pizza, so give me a break.
Pizza?
He says, shh, that wasn't supposed to come out. I've been getting paid in stale food all this time. And so, Brenda, this question that comes in may not tie in with our central theme today, but again, I think it's important that we address this. This is someone that watches the program, they say, when they have an opportunity to, so we appreciate that. And are you ready for the rest of this?
Yeah.
Okay. It says that they retired recently, and almost immediately thereafter became sick with violent headaches, and the medical field has done every test in the book to try and figure out what is wrong with me, and they can't seem to figure out what is going on, sometimes just saying there isn't anything going on that we can see. Do you have any ideas for them?
Well, first, I'm glad to hear that she's exhausted the medical field with her questions, which is what we always say. I like the idea that people will come to me either first or totally last, so that they've eliminated everything else, so that if something is what they need to hear, they're not confused about where the answer is.
You can either preclude or you can become the ultimate alternative to what hasn't worked for them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the reason for that is so there's clarity in a person's mind, not that I have anything to prove, because I don't.
And that would be clarity, not Claritin. There's no sponsors here of a pharmaceutical nature on our program. Just want to make that. No, we can't do that. So.
Okay.
Shuffy's waiting for nasal swelling's my job, because I've been saying that to him a lot lately. It's a fun cartoon ad right now for Mucinex. But all right, Brenda. So again, in all seriousness, this person is having a problem. So do we think we can help her?
Well, what actually is coming through is the fact that for the first time this person hasn't got a place to go. All of the doubts and the fears and the, okay, who am I now, are showing their face. They've probably been there for years, some of these, but because you go to work and you do what you need to do, they're not there. Now they're here. There actually is something going on in this person's head. There's a tiny bit of, for lack of a better word, like a little piece of, say, calcium. Don't know if that's right or not. Caught right back here due to a bang on the head, and that is catching and causing a headache. I'm thinking that can be taken care of fairly simply, with maybe some reconnection energy.
Okay, so you are seeing a physical anomaly that is causing these headaches.
Very tiny, and it's combined with the spiritual, mind, body, spirit thing. She's got something that's legitimately wrong with her, and it's been there all these years and hasn't bothered her. Now it's bothering her. And because of all the other things, it's tying together. So we can work on that.
Okay. Brenda, I'm not surprised at all to hear you say that you felt as though, and it doesn't seem because she included it at the outset of her question, that the recent retirement does play a role in why there's a physical ailment suddenly, because I know someone that's very close to me, who I love very much. When they retired, it was about the worst thing, I think, in retrospect, that they probably could have done. Work is very important in our world to so many people, and I'm not so sure that I've ever heard of anybody, Brenda, that I've known that has that idyllic retirement where they're marlin fishing off of the Mexican coast and drinking cheap beers and life is good. And I just feel like most of the people I've known, I see some of them going back to work, and I always salute those businesses that are willing to hire retired age senior citizen folks, because you can tell the job means so much to them. Work is an important thing within the human condition that we've established, at least in our world today. What is it about work that is so important?
Because we let it define who we are. We don't take the time, we get rushed out of school, rushed into a career, rushed into a relationship, rushed into careers that say you're going to do this, you're going there, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, and you're successful based on what you're doing that you found yourself in, a job. You only, a lot of times, stop to ask who you are and what's going on inside me when there's nothing else going on. And that's hard to do when all of these fears are, well, now what are you going to do? Who are you? You had this and you had that and now that's gone. Who are you gets lost, like it did in the very beginning. What I really would love to see, and maybe it's my job and your job, find out who you are. I've harped on that, I've talked about that.
Yeah.
Start now. I don't care if you're 19 years old or you're 70.
Oh, I don't care if you're 19 weeks old. I think if you're
Absolutely.
able to have any kind of what you'd call, and from day one, even probably from before that, if you want to get into that, and the last thing I want to do is get into when conception defines life, so please let's not go there. But again, start as early as you can, because I think what we've just heard about here, what I've seen happen, I'm sure what you've seen happen, Brenda, that you're alluding to, is a trap that so many people do walk into, because we are defined by our society, and I hate blaming society for things. I really do dislike it when people tend to poke at society, because we are society after all. We are the fabric that make it up. But there is a mill that we go through. It goes back to our edition when we talked about having children, and people will always come to me and say, why don't you have any children? And I'll say, well, why do you have children? They'll say, well, it's just what people do. Same thing, I suppose, with going to school, going to secondary education, through the collegiate system, matriculating and finishing, and then going into a job or a career and having children. And then you emerge from all of that and you're older, maybe you're a little more tired, and it is time to retire, and you are left with that giant question late in life, who am I?
And that's all good. It's all good. Education, career.
Oh, I'm not knocking any of that.
Not at all.
I'm just...
But what we want to do is say stop anywhere you're at right now, if you haven't already, and get a little self-centered, for lack of a better way to put it, and find out who you really are. Why are you here? You can still work at a car dealership, or you can still be a nurse, teacher, whatever, without sacrificing who you are. In fact, when that becomes a part of what you do, it's like this old love thing we were talking about. It comes through and you care more, maybe, or care, maybe for the first time, about who you're working with and that patient you're with or that student you're talking to. Because of who you are, you can't give anything to anyone else if you haven't given it to you first.
Yeah, and people, I think, Brenda, who are in the most blissful states, and I've been there as an artistic person in the past, and seem to be trying to get back there again, or at least I have this preconceived idea that this was a euphoric time in my life and I have to get back to it, and I think that probably has to just be shed. And so I have my own little strifes that I deal with, and that I think we all do, but we've alluded to this in the program before too. The person who I ran into who was a painter, and they said, I said, well, what do you do? And they said, well, I'm a painter, but I really want to be a painter. I say, well, do you paint? Well, yeah, but I'm not able to make any money at it right now. So you can't let the fact that you're not garnering a salary or an income off of your passion define whether you're a painter or not. I told this person flat out, I said, if you paint, you're a painter, period. I don't care what you grossed off of your paintings last year. I don't care if you ever made a dime in your life, whether you're Van Gogh or Van Gone. It doesn't matter. I mean, you are a painter, and you need to exist in that blissful state. So I see that pitfall happening to people too, Brenda, a little bit. They tend to say that the definition of what they are does reside on how successful they can be defined as being within that. And I think that's a trap that we need to try and avoid. Do things because they are who you are and because you do love to do them. And you can have a job and also have that existence outside of, well, I need to do this to pay the bills, but after that, my time really begins.
I love my age, which is not going to be discussed at any length or disclosed.
We will put up some Sanskrit numbers now for you to just all shuffle to the dictionary. Call Alex Trebek. And, oh, why, that's the exact age. And Alex, you're breaking up. I lost you. So. At least one part of me is smart.
I've been a very successful realtor.
You have.
And there was a time when that was what I identified with. The things that actually please me more right now are one of the things that someone said to me recently. I like being in your presence because I know you like and accept me.
That's a fine compliment.
That's a big one, and
yeah.
I didn't realize I liked and accepted that person.
Well, you had to be told.
But because I like and I accept me, that comes through. And of course, they have benefit. You know, I benefit from all of that. But real estate would be good. It'd be nice to pay bills and whatever. But at this time, it's become so much more important to me to find out who I really am. And
yeah.
where all this stuff is coming from. It's coming from here.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think that's a great urging that you had
yeah.
for folks. Again, no matter how happy, I suppose, you can say that you are, or how successful you are, or how great things are going, maybe how rotten things are going, I guess, in the other perspective, from all of the definitions that we use in our societal realm, take some time to sit down and think about who you really are and who you really want to be.
And that is totally amazing. We've discussed this, some of the meditations that I've been having recently, and some of the things that I've come to realize. It's not an egotistical thing at all. It is a huge I am that I am. I am meaning God that I am. Very powerful. Very, very powerful. And am I God? Are you God? We are all.
Well, and we've talked about this with mothers too before. Mothers who get extraordinarily busy because a lot of them do have to work in order to support the household. Maybe they at least have to work part-time.
Mm-hmm.
And they have small children, and they have to take them to school and soccer practice and all these things. And I think that's one of the places where we tend to steer as far as what role we can define in our society. The mom, whether she's single or married, really, the woman with children has had to more rapidly than any other, I think, part of our society recently, at least in the Western world, redefine their role very quickly.
Roles.
Well, so we'll use that as an example to say that the old Calgon take me away. I mean, that time very often is spent thinking about just exactly how busy they are. And we hear a lot of cooing and a lot of crowing from that sect. I know you've dealt with that too, to say that, oh, I'm just so busy and I'm overwhelmed. And it would be difficult to feel like you could stop. But there are moments where you absolutely can. And what can you do from there, I guess, is...
You're the most effective as a parent, as an employee, as a friend, as a person, when you are at peace with you.
When you're taking care of you. And you've jumped on exactly what I was wanting to make the point of right there, which is you have to take care of you, because you're not going to be able to do as good a job for those kids, for that spouse, for any of those friends that you want to keep, for all of the people within your circle that may wander in and out of it throughout the course of every day, unless you are taking care of you.
Absolutely.
So make sure that that's done.
And you have, it's like, well, I don't have time. It could be as simple as breathing in and breathing out on the way to work. Breathing in good energy and letting what's stale and been inside you out. Simple things, recognizing the power of the universe and love, the love of our source God, whatever. It's not, it's a luxury for me now to be able to meditate every morning. And I have become totally hooked. I look forward to those times, and we talk about the different the things I've been listening to, and the thoughts that it provokes, and the whole simple thing is the search we have to find out who we are is right here.
Yeah.
And you can't hear it for the noise.
And it may be different for every family, and again, I'm not necessarily the best person to go to, or maybe I am, because I have a different perspective, because I do not have children, and nor do I really want them in my own world. But Brenda, it seems like the more time that you could really spend together is going to be the most quality time as far as, that unit is concerned. You do have to take care of yourself, but what I'm thinking of is, I have a brother who, it's a constant... Well, I have to get them off to soccer practice, and then they have t-ball practice, and then I've got to get them to the church choir, and then I've got to get them to the Mary Had a Little Lamb production, because, my youngest is the Little Lamb this time. It's a big deal to her. And those are great things to be involved with. But, I saw, of all things, I think it was a House Hunters recently, that show that's on HGTV, where they focus on people who are looking to move around and stuff. Yeah, Shuffy knows. He's saying his head, oh, I watch it. We see him back there. So, I got you. I got you, Shuff. He watches it, so... They were focusing on two extremely successful New York City people. These were people who were born in the city, raised in the city, and they climbed the corporate greasy pole, as one very wise person, I guess, has been saying that I've heard lately. So,
I like that.
Working 14, 16 hours a day, not seeing each other, let alone the children they started to have during the course of this marriage. And they looked at each other one day and said, we don't want to do this anymore. It really was some kind of a bulb that went off, I guess. And again, you could raise them in the city and do that bustle just fine. But they moved upstate or somewhere into the country, and they began a farm, a totally self-sustaining farm. And they knew nothing about how to do this at all. And now, 7 or 8 years, I think if I remember the story correctly, into this, they are successful at raising these... I think it's goats, and... I was going to say goats. I think it's goats, Brenda, yeah, and there may be sheeps or cows too or something, organically, happy beef and happy sheep and those kinds of things, and they do slaughter these animals, and they, but they're making a living at it. They're spending tons of quality time with their children who love it where they are, so it was a radical change, but I would suggest that maybe just one change to spend some more time with those kids might make a big difference. And then certainly making a little change here and there to take care of, again, you the mom or you the dad in that circumstance, going to make a world of difference.
Drive them to school or pick them up and listen to them. Just listen to them. Tell them you love them. And it's like my middle son said to me one time, he said, Mom, I know that you love me, but do you think you could drop me off a block down the road so they don't send another ticket?
Oh, that day hurts, doesn't it? Just...
And that was the day I realized I probably couldn't kiss him goodbye every morning. But I was doing it for me, and it was that time alone. Because the other boy, my oldest son, was taking sports, so he did the bus thing, and our baby was not there yet. So it was that time I needed it.
Yeah.
I needed it. But it's okay that you love me, but drop me off a block down the road.
Yeah, that's about as bad as, not that it's ever happened to me, but the date that you have to take home, and she says, yeah, you want to drop me off like 2 blocks away from where I actually live. I don't want to be seen with you getting out of the car. So.
But we understand that, don't we?
I understand. Can I have some more gum before you go? Thank you. It's a plenty pack. So. All right, Brenda, we were going to talk about the thread today, so can we touch on this a little bit?
I want to hear.
Okay, because she has not, I guess this is one of my rants or things that she actually has not been introduced to it, and you get introduced to it today. It's funny though, because and it's not funny at all, it's actually kind of a disturbing subject in a way, but this was something that I thought about on my own time years and years ago, and it seemed to be central to, and I do not remember the perpetrator, not that he needs any more infamous fame than he probably already got at the time. But you may have remembered in the 1980s there was an incident where a man, very heavily armed with a lot of guns and weapons, went into a McDonald's in California and shot the place up and killed quite a few people and injured quite a few more. And I think it was that got me to thinking about just exactly how fragile our world really is with as many people as are here. I mean, think about it. There's 8 billion of us on the rock today, approximately. And any one of us could cause a pocket of calamity or chaos to the tune of taking out 10, 12 people. I mean, Charles Whitman did the same thing in the 1960s from the tower in the University of Texas, at the book repository. So we've had incidents like that in the past, but they were quite rare before. And I always thought, well, I see this thread. When I see all those people, they're lined up on this thread. And crazy enough, the woman that may be working for 9 cents an hour in the sweatshop in China is making no more of a ruckus doing her bit today than I am going to my job in radio or in graphic design, as you are going through your real estate dealings, as Donald Trump or Michael Jackson when he was alive are going through their famous routines for the day. All of us are straddling that line and we're walking it, and every so often somebody decides they're going to step off, or they're going to they're going to jump up and down on it. And I always thought it's amazing. Have you ever driven in traffic in the big city? If you're in the big city, you say, yeah, I do it every day. Think about how amazing that is. I remember driving in the LA freeway system at night, and if you do less than 90, you're a dead man. I mean, if you've driven in Los Angeles, you know that. And I left the valley thinking, I can't believe that happens every day, and there aren't, not just, because there's wrecks and things and people die, I can't believe there aren't thousands of deaths every day down there, and that there's not cars crushed against each other and fires, and it's not just chaos, because it really is. But we've found an order, that we've found a drum we can march to in it. So that's the thread, Brenda, and I guess what I'm going to call upon for you to do for us then, if you adhere to any of what I just said at all, is talk to us about maybe some of the things we're seeing to shake the thread a little bit more, because we are having incidents now where people are kind of going off their rocker, whether they have mental issues or not, and you could say they all do, but we have shootings, we have incidents in malls, in theaters, in churches, in whole communities, as was the case in Alabama some years ago when the guy decided, I think he was going to take out his wife, and then he took out his boss, and then it was a several county chase, and he was shooting people along the way. These things disturb me from the sense that, to me, they tend to be indicators that there are too many of us, and that thread is getting heavier and heavier. So when I say these things, what are you imaging? What are you getting as an intuitive about this? Because I feel like this is, kind of a dangerous subject for us, and that it's something that might be on people's minds, because we've already talked about the culture of fear that's out there, and when you go to the mall, you'd like to think you can shop till you drop, and not because somebody put a bullet in you. And I know it's a terrible joke, but really, I mean, it's true. It's a reality we live in.
So this may or may not be what you want to hear from me, but because of that fear, that thread of that person who can't quite handle what's going on, they go over that line. We could all live in fear of that. That could be something that I'm not going to the mall. My mother will say this, oh no, I'm not going, the traffic is so bad right now that we won't go right now because somebody might hit us. I choose to go when I'm going to go. I'm not going to let fear control me. And we've talked about that a lot. There's always that threat. There's always the threat that somebody might cross over the line and be that threat you're talking about. They might decide to shoot me, or they don't like the way I look, or they don't like the car I drive, or maybe I've offended them somewhere along the line, they decide to shoot me. That's all possible.
Well, it's also possible that you're avoiding the mall because crazy people are out there and it's a Saturday and this is the time when they decide to shoot up the place, that if you stay home that day, someone decides to reenact the scene from American Werewolf in London and do a home invasion, and you're going to be off just the same way. So we can create fear.
Absolutely.
Regardless of what circumstances we want to put it around. I think more than anything, Brenda, I'm just wondering, you know...
You want to know if there's too many people, if maybe we're not just getting
creating
too much crowding, too much... Is
this a reaction from the collective of our existence here physically? Is this a reaction from the planet in some way that's causing these schisms to happen? I mean, is there anything to this, I'm wondering, that's bigger? I know we talked about conspiracy theories in the last show, and I don't want to make one that could be some sort of spiritual conspiracy, but I am wondering about that, because it crossed my mind decades ago, and it seems like it's gotten a little bit more and more intense recently.
I actually don't think so. I think that this is a divine plan, this is creation. And there is room for all of us. I traveled in China where you went like this with a backpack on your back and one on the front of you to keep in line and keep from getting trampled to get on a bus, and that was what they did. You don't hear of that many people in China or Japan or in the really crowded places that all of a sudden start shooting people around them. It's only the people that have felt neglect or no love or something that, or berated, belittled. Those are the people who tend, I think, to lose it a little bit. It's not the crowding. It might make me uncomfortable. It might add to somebody, but it seems to be that lone person who doesn't have the whatever it takes inside to take care of their own needs, and they have not got what they needed from society or parents or whatever. Has it got anything to do with the vibration of the earth and the... Maybe it could. Maybe there's... I don't know that. But I think basically it's right back to where we were talking about the last show.
Yeah.
What can we,
Yeah.
Love.
Absolutely.
And not buy into the fear of any of it.
Yeah, I don't want to back up into episode 21 too much, but I do know that the Patriot Act is one of those things that has recently caused a lot of people, I think, to really focus on what it is that they want. And I've always said, staying out of the politics of it and staying out of the, it's just a way the government's trying to control us and steer us towards world government and we're all going to be herded together like sheep and it's this Orwellian thing. Staying out of that, as we talked about on the last program, Brenda, I've always just said, well, my summation when I discuss it with people is, being alive is very cool. Existing is awesome. In this corporeal form, you could say, in this human body, it's also dangerous business. And it doesn't matter whether you're running from T-Rexes. I know anthropology students, we did not exist at the same time as dinosaurs. We don't think, anyway. But it really doesn't matter if you are running from a man-eating tiger in the jungle that's just trying to do his thing, or if you are boarding an aircraft and they didn't search everybody's underwear properly. And I think when I talk with people, especially right after that happened and when I started to, because I didn't do air travel for a long time, and then I started to, and I got subject to some of these things. And look, search me, it's not a big deal for me, but for others it's highly intrusive. They really do dislike it. And it seems to me like the nation has made its choice, and they really would rather just assume the risk more often than not. Don't try to save me all the time. Let me live, because there's no living in all of that worry and fear. And there really isn't any living in that, is there?
No, there really isn't. We teach our children a certain amount of fear to keep them safe. That doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, what you do is you say, don't go near that neighborhood, that's a bad neighborhood, or...
Don't stick a key in the electrical
right,
socket.
and those are things that we have to teach them to keep them safe. But can we teach them in a way that doesn't create fear? I don't know. Is that possible?
Turning to Shuffy for answers is rare on this program, so...
Yes. But I mean, you have beautiful boys. You're very, very well behaved.
2 kids, another one on the way.
And I
send
don't see them afraid.
Your cards and letters in it too.
They're not afraid, are they?
Nope.
Well, being alive, Brenda, again, it is dangerous business. And we rarely quote our founding fathers on this program, God forbid, because Ben Franklin said this, and he was probably a reptilian shapeshifter extraordinaire. I have heard that too. If so, why did he shapeshift into that? I mean, do a little. I love the hair, you know, but it seems like something else. Ben said a lot of extremely quotable things and some very poignant things, and one of my favorite things that he ever said, or was purported to have said, along the lines of what we were just discussing and have today, at least in the latter half of the show, Brenda, is a society that would choose safety over freedom deserves neither. And I've always loved that line, because really, when you think about it, what would you rather be? Free to assume the risks, all of them, because boy, there are some risks. Think about the crazy things that have happened to people. I mean, I'm sure there's got to be somebody's death certificate out there that says frozen turkey, you know, fell on them. And my wife's a big Jim Butcher fan. If you've read the books, you know about that one already. So, but there's probably some really crazy things that have caused some people to die or caused injury to people in this world. So you could make up a ton of things to be afraid of, but if you're sitting at home and just afraid to do anything, that really isn't much of an existence. It is an existence, I will grant you that, but it might not be one that gets you very far.
If I'm going to die on a plane, let it be on the way to Kona, Hawaii. Right?
Gosh,
Okay.
how would I end? This is a great exercise for you too, and we're getting this. Come on, hurry up! You know, so maybe this will be their homework, Brenda.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll give you homework for the first time ever on Bridging the Gap. I mean, it's about time after all. So, and since this is episode 22, and I think of Queen's right, waiting for 22, well, you don't have to wait anymore. It was an instrument. Filling in the blank after that statement. If I was going to die on an airplane, blank. You said it would be on the way to Kona.
Or coming back.
I'm thinking 2 things. One, no one is sitting next to me, because I really dislike that on an aircraft. And I actually really like to talk to people, but not when I'm 40,000 feet in the air. Or something to do with Tang, but it's not clear. It's not coming to me right now. Maybe I'll have some time to think on this one. But Brenda, it is a jungle out there, as they say. And again, it's kind of what we've talked about today. The jungle that we've created has its own set of laws, and then there are those laws that we sort of came from, I guess, in the jungle itself, literally. But the thread, I don't know what you thought of that. If you ascribe to it, if you think there's something to it, you might analyze it for yourself, think about your own place on it. And Brenda, again, the resounding message, I think something we have to talk about every time you're on the program, is love and peace, and how peace and harmony will lead you to a path of love And I hate the word enlightenment all the time, but I think that's probably a pretty good one, actually,
The
that we
one
could
that-
use too.
That keeps coming to me lately when I'm talking, especially talking to a good friend, is who's very fearful of the dark. When you are light, there's no darkness. So if it's as simple as you being the light that's around you, then darkness has to stay farther and farther away from you.
Darkness has been described as the same exact thing with the absence of light. So all it is filled with a lot of unknown. That could be defined as your fear, your doubt, those types of things. So a lot of different ways you could think about it and ponder on it.
Deepak Chopra says, why would you be satisfied with the landscaping of the earth when you could have the entire earth? Which really took me a while to think about. And that's like, the landscaping would be the cars, the houses, the prestige, the being there. When you
Okay.
have the entire field, that stuff's there too.
Yeah.
So go for the field, go for the who you are. Figure out what it takes to make you happy. And all of the other stuff, which I love,
Yeah.
will be there.
And leave stuff alone. When you
Leave
go out
stuff
into the
alone.
wild, I mean, it's fun to feed the birds, and but
Don't
enjoy. I would say enjoy things for what they are,
Don't
too, just
take
for
a
what it's
chipmunk
worth.
home with you.
Don't take a chipmunk home. Oh, that brings back memories. 1990, dance bar, San Diego, California. It was a wild weekend. My buddy, we were the last ones to get in. Long line that night, 2.5 hours. He looks at me and says, "Hey, don't take a chipmunk home tonight, all right?" I said, "All right, I'm good. I'm really good. This time around, I'm not going to do it."
What is he talking about?
Brenda, good to see you as always.
Great.
We're going to close on that note, if you can believe it or not. That's where we went. So we've chewed on the thread
That's
enough
not
here.
Very,
I think it's plenty to finish the program for this time around. Brenda Burgett, Intuitive Medium Spiritual Advisor. Please get your questions to her. BridgingTheGapTV.com, BridgingTheGapWithBrenda.com. Same website, two different wonderful ways to get there. Bridging the Gap on TV, on YouTube. I'm Ian Hansen, your host for the program. Until the next time around, enjoy your existence, folks. We'll talk soon.